politics and precious metals, currency and current events, and from Bitcoin to Banksters, this is the Wise Wolf Gold and Crypto Show. Now, here are your hosts, Tony Arterburn and Kenzie.
I'm finally getting my wish. I always wanted to do a podcast with a dog. And now I've got Aura. She's on screen. And Aura didn't even jump in with the gunshot. So I guess you guys are in sync there, Kenzie.
We're definitely in sync. She might, you never know. She might have something to say. We might reach a certain topic and everybody just be ready for that because Aura's very talkative.
She very much is. She has a great voice. She has a great voice for radio, a great voice for podcasting. Glad to have her here as well. This is the Wise Wolf Gold and Crypto Show, and I'm Tony Arterburn. I'm joined by my co-pilot and co-host, researcher, slayer of normalcy bias, Kenzie. Say hello to the people.
Hello, hello.
Well, it's the 9th of July, 2022. Clown world economics still in play. And at least two of our articles today will spell out some of the fraud that goes on behind the bankster class. You know what's interesting, too? Just a side note. The social media platforms and when I put in a title to a show, it will correct my spelling if I, spell something that they don't recognize, right? They recognize the word Bitcoin, but they don't accept the word bankster, which I find interesting. Bitcoin is fairly new in the lexicon and the vocabulary. I mean, it's not brand new, but the word bankster has been around a long time. I mean, that precedes Bitcoin. Just saying. So you can kind of see their priorities, and we're going to talk a little bit about banksters today and politics, precious metals, wealth and warfare, markets and the monetary system, all the good stuff here on the Wise Wolf Gold and Crypto Show. Your comments as well. Will be monitoring the chat on all of the technocratic controlled platforms, be it Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and of course, rockfin.com on the America Unplugged channel. So let's just jump right into some stories here, Kenzie. I know you sent me your show notes. We can start it off with a Wise Wolf tweet. That'll be fine. If you go to @WiseWolfGold on Twitter, you will find Kenzie's handiwork. She made the Wise Wolf Gold and Silver Twitter great again. And yeah, absolutely. This is why you keep cash, gold, and BTC. And this is from Bitcoin Magazine on July 8th. Just in, Canada's entire banking system is reportedly offline. Canadians can still use Bitcoin, which is true.
This is true.
What are your thoughts on this? Does this have anything to do with are they testing? Is this a beta test for shutting something down?
Oh, well, I mean, it could be because what is it? Why am I so messed up today? I can't think of the actual operation for this thing. But we know that cyber attacks are going to be a thing. Now, this is actually...
Polygon?
Yeah, Cyber Polygon. Thank you, Tony. Thank you. This is why we do a show together, guys.
That's right.
So this actually leads in to a story that I had. And it says that Rogers apologizes as network collapse paralyzes Canadian business. So because our world is so centralized in everything that we do, all it takes is one of these companies. Think about when AWS is down. You really notice that. But you're really, really going to notice it whenever it has to do with your banking and being able to use your cards. And sadly, I know I said on the Wise Wolf Twitter, yes, cash, gold, BTC. That would be the direction of movements that I make. If I have cash, I'm going to use that first. If I need to sell some gold, I'm going to Tony. I'm going to sell some gold. He's going to give me some cash and hopefully I can go buy some bread. And then Bitcoin, because it might be a little bit harder in our area to find somebody that would accept Bitcoin for that. And I say that But what's really weird, Tony, is when we have these issues today in these stores like Walmart, if their systems are down, they won't let me use cash because people are too far gone. I don't want to say the R word, but they act like they don't have two cells to rub together, as if they can't just keep a physical ledger because they want everything on a digital ledger. So this is just another reason to point out, like, hey, food, water, defense, anything that you might need, even if it was just for the next 24 hours, always have some extra at the house of anything that you might need. We live in a society today that doesn't know how to function without the internet or without their programs working. So just a friendly reminder about that.
I like what you said yesterday too on my radio show about the more independent you become. Like if you want to guarantee your freedom, like just become the more independent you can strive to be, the better. And I like that because, cash, gold, BTC, these are outside. Again, that's why they hate cash. There's a war on cash right now. I don't know if anybody's noticed. It started with what's the choice of words? Pandemic in the beginning of 2020.
Yeah.
When they started saying it's the cash is dirty, it has to be quarantined, and I'm like, wait a minute. And then you see all these retailers, we're not accepting cash at this time. There's a coin shortage. I remember there was a coin shortage. I'm like, there's no coin shortage. You shut down millions of businesses, and then there's no depositors. So they have coins, they're just not putting in the bank. So yeah, there's a war on cash, and because they want that digital ledger that they control. That's why there's such a push for central bank digital currencies, which will be a reoccurring theme throughout every show that we do for as long as there's a Wise Wolf Gold and Crypto show, because that is the future battle for freedom as against these central bank digital currencies. And this is kind of an appendage to the tweet. Rogers apologizes as network collapse paralyzes Canadian business and consumers. Internet and wireless service went down early Friday. Today, we have let you down. what's
You think?
Rogers Communication Inc. apologized to customers after a major network failure shut down wireless and internet services, causing problems for payment systems, automated teller machines, and phone connections in Canada.
I mean, think about that. Even your phone connections. It's kind of I know that this is Wise Wolf Gold and Crypto, but let me just throw out here, guys, like, do you know how to get to certain places without having Google Maps on your phone? I could do better at that too. I mean, I don't really plan on going anywhere, but if you needed to, could you get to somewhere that was safer? Because this is no longer just about money. A lot of these systems all tie in together. And I think that that's, Tony and I have an understanding of that. And that's why we live our lives the way that we live our lives, is because it just takes one kink in our system. And we've seen plenty of them now during the scamdemic and throughout. This is huge. I mean, think about how many small businesses couldn't even operate, Tony, because of this.
Yeah. And so how close is this tied to the financial system issue?
Well, this was actually huge just based on the fact that you couldn't go and use your card anywhere. I think even online shopping was kind of screwed up because of this in certain areas. I don't know exactly how deep it went, but yeah, I'm talking hours. We're not just talking 30 minutes. Canada was kind of freaking out. I mean, it was, I guess in a joking way, they put verge of collapse, but like that's all it would take is the internet to be down for like 48 hours and there's your collapse.
Yeah, Royal Bank of Canada said the network failure was affecting all financial institutions in Canada.
Think about that. Even the big banks couldn't talk to the other big banks, which they have to do all day long.
Yeah, this is the problem with centralization. The bigger these multinationals get, and we know why. There's a little thing called the New World Order, if you want to throw that word around, that phrase around anyhow. That's what this is all about. It's a consolidation game. And the more that there's consolidation, any type of hiccup, there is no backup systems. They just say, well, we're the only game. And it really
and they purposefully, it almost seems like it's purposeful to plan that way, right? Because why would you build such a large system and not have a backup? Even if your backup, your backup doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to keep you moving. And we don't even have systems built that are in place to keep the financial system moving. If it's down, it's down.
Well, this is again one of the reasons why you should not rely totally on the system. These are the gut checks and the signposts on the road that you should pay attention to, and this is the uncertainty that we're heading into. I think this is part of this decade, and there's going to be a lot of chaos. We talked yesterday about um, the Great Reset, what they're striving to do with the central bank digital currencies, and that particular article was saying precious metals, and Kinsey and I were saying diversify. You could have I'm even promoting cash as like you as well. I mean, something that is not tied to the electronic system. So I agree with you on that.
Yes.
All right.
Whatever gets you away from that. I wouldn't say save your life savings in it, but whatever.
Well, my life savings, everything I do goes back into my business, and people always ask me how much gold and silver I own, and I'm like, well, do you count my inventory or do you count what I actually have? I have very little. Like, I'm able to I'm like, oh, I finally got an American Eagle, a 10th ounce one. Because most of the stuff goes back into the inventory. And like someday when I grow up, I'll be able to have like some of my customers that order monster boxes and stuff. I'm like, well, I'd like to have one of those one day, but I got some great Morgan silver dollars. I end up giving everything away though. People that I love and my friends and the people that I care about, I'm like, hey, you should have some gold. You should have some silver. So that's just how I am. Let's do some financial news. This is CBS News. Demand for mortgages is dropping, and so are interest rates. Well, that's normally not how that goes.
No. And it's not even a huge drop. It fell to 5.3%. And it was 5.8 like 2 weeks ago. So it's not huge. It's not the under 3% like people were used to for so long. And I don't know how much it will truly help. I don't know.
Yeah, house hunters are seeing a bright spot in the market this month as mortgage rates have dropped slightly and the amount of homes available for purchase has increased. Housing inventory, the industry's term for number of homes for sale, grew 29% compared to a year ago, according to data from Realtor.com. Meanwhile, the average rate for a 30-year fixed mortgage fell to 5.3% this week, according to Freddie Mac. Well, this is interesting data. You have drops in interest rates and increase in home inventory.
And yet prices are still going up. Demand is dropping. Interest rates are higher.
Oh, okay. I see. They've got the Bermuda Triangle the clown world economics going on too. I see.
Yeah. It's a really fun time to be around. You know what? Honestly, I really wanted to bring this up because I know that we have to have a few listeners that are looking for a home and you're hoping for that crash. I really want to point out that if you do not have a sizable down payment, even if whatever house you're looking at drops in half or more, do you still have, depending on how hard credit locks up, will you have the cash to pay for it, gold, Bitcoin, whatever you're saving? And if you're not going to buy it outright, do you have a 30 or 40% down payment that you can put towards it? Because if we do experience a housing crash where things start to come down pretty fast, which it's actually kind of slow in the housing world, but if prices start rapidly decreasing, that still doesn't mean that you're just going to be able to go out and get that home and only put 5 or 10 or 20% down. You're going to need something sizable because the banks have got more risk. They're literally not allowed to do more in that situation if they tighten. So
well, this is just speculation, but from the formula you just laid out, let's see if we can reverse engineer it. You've got a drop in interest rates, an increase in inventory.
yes.
Okay, but the prices are not dropping.
Yeah. Even though we have less buyers because they're waiting for that good time.
Is that because we have Vanguard, BlackRock, Blackstone?
Not 100%. We can put a sizable blame on these companies, but if you really wanted to go look at the charts and data, and I might even put this together for next week's show, Tony, if we really wanted to look at the data, even though we have more homes coming onto the market, it's not the same as what you saw years and years and years ago. So yes, we do have more inventory coming onto the market, but there are far more people looking to buy than what there is still available, and the price kind of remaining high doesn't help. But most sellers want to get absolute top unrealistic dollar for
Right.
their
Well,
piece of
I know
crap.
that BlackRock, them buying the lots and blocks of houses, and
Yeah.
and they're paying full price or over. I mean, they're just
Mhm.
giving cash, and infusing that. It makes me think, well, they've kept the prices artificially high, and then in
Mhm.
normal people, like average human beings, they they're not they're not getting any benefit from that. They're seeing prices continue
None.
to stay high, but inventory is increasing, harder to get a mortgage. Um, well, that's the way I see it anyway.
Yeah.
And I think that's
And I
just
really wouldn't, the other side of this coin is so many people are happy, Tony, because their home value is up so much. And I'm thinking, I don't want the tax assessor to come near. I don't think that he will because of how far out I am. But I would not want a tax assessor coming and looking at my property right now in this market. All right. Even like, let's say that your home's completely bought off. Let's go with that. And you're living off of your retirement, but it's literally just perfect for your life right now. Those taxes going up, in some places even doubling, this is going to force retired people either back into work, or they're not going to be able to maintain what they have just through taxing. I mean, this is so silly. It's literally, you feel like you've met that milestone and paid off all your debts, but if you're not paying your taxes, apparently we don't really own anything, do we?
no. You,
Renting from the
you
government.
you're not. Property taxes are so unconstitutional. The income tax is unconstitutional. I mean,
Yes.
not only is it an abomination to our founding, but they rammed through the 16th Amendment, and I'm almost 100% certain it was not completely ratified correctly. I've seen different articles and notations and very well researched books about that as well. But yeah, it's unconstitutional. Uh, Everything that we do now is taxed, and
Everything.
it's inverted in a way that when you talk about the American dream, this kind of is born out of the 1950s post World War II baby boom,
Mhm.
suburban outgrowth, and they say the white picket fence in the home and the nuclear family. Well, they're making it to where, and I think this is where BlackRock comes in and some of these other major they wanted us to be a renter society because
Yes.
it's inverting so much where it's, they used to do the comparisons. And one of the first things I remember reading a biography of Richard Nixon, and one of the first like major debates he went into as a kid, him and his dad sat down at the dinner table for like 2 nights in a row and they did a pros and cons on whether you should rent or own a home. And this is back in the the 30s, 20s and 30s. And I think about that now, and you have so much against you to own. Yeah, they've
Mhm.
made the old tax code, like that was written a long time, the writing off the mortgage interest. But if you look at cost, maintenance, property tax, it's just, again, it is a, I don't know. To me, it's a net positive almost to rent. Now, if you wanted to be an owner and rent out the home to someone else, then you're in a better position as an entrepreneur. But your own, that's why Robert Kiyosaki says your home is not an asset.
Never look at your home as an asset. Never.
Right. Because an asset should produce something, whereas a home doesn't. I mean, you have to put money in it. And so just a philosophy there. But I think average Americans are being priced out of owning a typical home. And I
But
think
they're also being way priced out of rent. I mean,
rent too, right?
just to have some comparison, you would think that Arkansas is pretty cheap, and I'm not going to say that it's not compared to other places. I don't want to say that. But with the kind of income that we have in this state, I would say that it's unrealistic to think that most people can afford 2 to 3 grand a month for rent. And that's just the rent. That's not the cost of everything else. Because, for my little sister's setup, I think it's around 2 grand a month, but she's paying for all of her utilities. There's still, the car bill. There's still other things that need to be paid. And it's a lot. It's, and
Right.
they actually have pretty decent jobs, but it's still, month to month, it's a struggle. So that's where a lot of people are at. And you tie on top of that. Did you see what was it last week? The average car note now, people are like paying over $700 a month for their car.
It's a mortgage.
What are you
That was
doing?
my first mortgage when
That's
I
more than my mortgage.
Well, I mean, like when I got out of the Army, I bought $130,000 home with a VA loan, and it was an historic home in Bonham, Texas. It was 130,000, and I think all in, like my mortgage and everything was under $1,000. That was with property, of course, Texas property tax,
Yeah.
insurance, everything rolled in under $1,000. And then I see these car loans, and I'm going, what? Just for the record, I will never get a new car ever again for any reason whatsoever. Period.
Yeah, I will say for a short period this year, it might have made more sense to get something new just because of the cost of used.
Right. Yes.
Made absolutely, and still maybe depending on what you're looking at, maybe that is the better option. Just as far as reliability, how long can I keep this on the road?
We're being priced out of everything.
Everything. Well, you'll own nothing and be happy, right?
We could own nothing. We're becoming they're forcing you to become a renter society.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why we bring this up, I mean, we're not just, we're going to talk a little Bitcoin and gold and silver a little bit later, but this is the prelude. These are the events that are happening before the next level. I want to call the next economic reality that we're going to face is going to be the aftermath of this great pricing out of the American people, and not just the American people, but worldwide of the first world. It's being priced out of ownership, priced out of the market, and the wealth consolidation that's going on is unprecedented. I used to say that the largest transfer of wealth in human history was the manufacturing that was gutted and given away from the United States, ripped away starting in the 1960s, but really amping up in the 1970s after we opened China and formed the Trilateral Commission. And you can see in real time, we never ran a trade surplus again. You could read books like Pat Buchanan wrote a book called The Great Betrayal in 1997. I love that book. And it showed NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, CAFTA, GATT, the General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs. All that stuff was a vehicle to redistribute wealth. And you can see the massive uptick in corporate profits. I mean, this is in real time, folks. You can go back and let's look at 1980 into 1990, and you'll see wages go just flatline. Okay, just flatline. But corporate profits, I mean, you can't even you can't scale them. They just go up and up and up. And that's what happened until the last few years. And you can, like, how many more billionaires were created in the last 36 months?
Yeah.
More than ever. Because there's more opportunity once you've reached a certain class level. And that's why it's so important to learn about the history of money, the history of currency, the history of gold and silver. Learn everything you can about crypto, because that's the new market space. If you want a chance at a place at the table, that's what I would study, especially. But if you want to retain wealth, you got to look at precious metals. Just my opinion, because again, we're going to get into something that the elites are doing that I've been saying for years, and there's more and more coming out that are shedding light on the manipulation that goes on with precious metals, and it's unprecedented. You talk about a conspiracy, and I know that there is no such thing as conspiracies, Tony. You're a crazy crackpot. There's such thing as conspiracies. Well, this is Yahoo, and then let's bring this article up, Kinsey. Let's bring up Yahoo.
Tony.
Yeah, go ahead.
Really quickly before we get into that, there's actually a question that we have over here in chat, and I feel like we could probably knock it out in a minute or so.
Sure.
But you also live in Arkansas. Tony does business in Missouri. So, right? That's right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, back and forth can be okay. Denise says, which state in the Ozarks is better for a homeowner tax-wise, Missouri or Arkansas? Now, I know nothing about Missouri taxes, but what I can tell you is, my land is very cheap for taxes. Very cheap. And I've got about 20 acres. It's very cheap. So that's not a huge deal, but I will say there's other things to consider, such as I believe that our sales tax is around 10%. There's an extra tax within my county or area, and, there's a soda tax here in Arkansas. So there's stuff to think about as far as that goes. The internet will provide you a whole lot, but I don't know if Tony knows more about Missouri than I do,
That's a good question. I've paid, property tax for my land in Arkansas, and it's very low
Yeah.
because any structures that are like on a foundation or anything like that, I don't have that type of property tax. But Missouri's been real reasonable too. I mean, this whole area, southern Missouri, northwest Arkansas, I would say they probably mirror each other in a lot of ways. Um, I pay, some property tax for my business in southern Missouri, and they've been real reasonable. I mean, this is a reasonable part of the country to live in, especially if you're living in the county and not in the city. But yeah, there's a lot of incentives for people to move here. They want, entrepreneurs, people building things. It's not like a lot of places in the country where they're fleeing because they're trying out some old ideas that Fidel Castro tried, and Mao and Stalin. They're trying it again. It'll work this time. So I don't know. I would say either one. I don't think you can lose either way. The property tax, but Texas, like the flood of people going to Texas, and Texas has no income tax, and that's the thing is like Missouri has an income tax, Arkansas has an income tax.
Yeah.
What you have to remember, like if that's where your citizenship is, and that's where you're going to have that income tax. Texas has no income tax, but their property taxes are next level, and
probably sales tax too.
Sales taxes. I mean, I think Texas sales taxes, like everybody else, it's between 8 and 10%. It's somewhere in there. That seems to be like, I think the only place that doesn't have sales tax in the country, I think, is Delaware. Joe Biden's home state. So go out there and drop your laptop off somewhere.
I just know it's way higher here, sales tax, than it was in Georgia. It's considerable.
Right. Yeah. There's the different states, different rates, but I would say you can't really lose either way. Arkansas, Missouri, good
just
states.
Just move out in the middle of nowhere where the tax guy isn't coming to see you, but every like 5 to 8 years, and keep your gate closed. So once he shows up, he never enters. That's my advice to you.
Oh, that's because, Kinsey lives in miles below the Earth's surface in an old nuclear silo she's repurposed and undisclosed location. And, it's nice and cool down there below, miles below? I mean, you're probably, 65 degrees? Doing good.
Doing good.
Let's jump on this article that's going to lead us to the theme for today. But this is finance.yahoo.com. JP Morgan gold desk ripped off markets for years, jurors told. The precious metals business at JP Morgan Chase & Company operated for years as a corrupt group of traders and sales staff who manipulated gold and silver markets for the benefit of the bank and its prized clients, a federal prosecutor told jurors in Chicago. This case is about criminal conspiracy. Wait a minute. You can't say that word. There is no such thing as conspiracy. Who is this prosecutor? Don't you know that conspiracy doesn't exist? The case is about criminal conspiracy inside of one of Wall Street's largest banks, said Lucy Jennings, a prosecutor with the Justice Department's fraud section. To make money for themselves, they decided to cheat. The trial of 3 former JP Morgan employees, including the veteran head of the precious metals, Michael Nowak, is the most ambitious effort yet in years-long U.S. crackdown on market manipulation and spoofing.
Yeah. Well, so again, like surprise, JP Morgan's rigging markets.
I can't believe it. I find this incredulous.
Are you shocked? I can tell you right now, I am shocked.
You mean the world is? You mean a very connected, high finance people? They do stuff behind the scenes to enrich themselves? That's not right. Well, I'm glad you brought this to my attention. I want you to get your thoughts on this, Kinsey, before we go to the next level, which is
I think we just need to jump into yours because, guys, the JP Morgan one was my article, and then Tony sends me the next one. This is insanity, Tony.
We're going to put this in the show notes, but this is something I was saying yesterday and every other show beforehand, but definitely been more and more lately because we're seeing the after effects of manipulation in the precious metals markets. And the reason that I know this, and Kenzie knows this, and anybody with that is thinking knows this, is because we know that the dollar's lost value. It's lost purchasing power. You can go and look at your price increases across the board. It's called inflation. You can go and look at the price of gasoline, the price of food, the price of housing, everything, right? And then precious metals drop. So they're called monetary metals for a reason. So if the price of everything goes up and demand for these metals goes up, but their price goes down, there's a red flag there. That doesn't make sense. That's not basic economics. And so there's an article up on Zero Hedge, and I just highly recommend. We're not going to read the whole thing, but there's so much in this piece. Peter Hambro, the Bank of International Settlements, BIS, central banks are rigging gold market using bullion banks paper gold. And this is submitted by Ronan Manley at bullionstar.com. Gold to
he does a great job, by the way.
Gold to central bankers is like the sun to vampires. Now remember that, because this is something I've been saying for years. It's like they hate precious metals. If they can make money off it, fine. They also know that they have to own and corner the market. And if you're in the market, securing your wealth and you're getting in on this, that doesn't help them. So this is something I want people to pay attention to. This week, an intriguing and eye-opening article by well-known Peter Hambro was published by British economics and politics news site Reaction. The article was titled, "Don't Forget the Golden Rule. Whoever has the gold makes the rules." It's an intriguing and eye-opening for a number of reasons, chiefly because it pulls no punches in highlighting the price manipulation of gold and naming the types of entities responsible, while explaining some of the mechanisms used in the fractional reserve paper gold game. Well, I want to, before I even go any further, I know you read this, Kenzie. Do you have any initial reactions before I give some more highlights? I don't want to leave you out.
Just initial reactions is, so many of us have been talking for so long about how this is going on just with silver and JP Morgan, but this is like 100 times the scale, and we're talking about banks. And you and I have both seen it before in gold and silver. The amount of paper moving through somewhere in a day is not what exists in a vault somewhere. And that's a big issue. Maybe it's more important that us metals people start talking about this within gold, even though it's not as common, because silver is used more for industry, I would say, whereas very rich, very wealthy people do not want to get effed over because some bankers are playing paper games with their money. Maybe this draws more attention to it.
I really hope so. The article is also notable in terms of who the author is. For those who don't know, Peter Hambro is a very well-respected name in the gold space, having co-founded and been chairman of the FTSE-listed Anglo-Russian gold mining company, Peter Hambro Mining, known as Petrovlask. He was also from 1983 to 1990 deputy managing director of legendary London bullion broker Makata and Goldsmith. Additionally, Peter Hambro's father, Everard Brigham Hambro, was also at one time a director of Samuel Montag, another of the legendary London bullion broker cartel firm. So this guy is a heavy hitter. He's an insider's insider. And he's telling you that they are manipulating the price of gold. And this is what, okay, I'm going to just go down here to this chart. And then this is for the podcast listeners. I highly recommend that you go and click on this link that will be in the show notes. Because you can see the spike in contracts sold. How would you explain this in the Q1? I'll read this real quick, and I want to get your take, Kenzie, so you can break it down better than I can. The trigger for Peter Hambro's article is a recent chart from the U.S. Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, the OCC, which, due to a data reclassification starting in Q1 of 2022, now shows the massive extent to which bullion banks such as JP Morgan have amassed precious metal derivatives contracts to hold down the gold price. It says an excellent summary of the charts is here and has a link you can also click. But just for the viewing audience, look at this. This is 2012 Q4, 2013 Q4. These all in the same spot. You see rising into 2019, a bump. You see 2020, a little bit more bump. And then it just explodes in 2022. Look at that.
What the? I haven't seen this chart. So what the hell?
This is the extent. You remember when I was telling people back in the first quarter of 2021, there was that giant push, and I'll never forget this because they were pushing to buy physical silver, and every shop I knew was sold out of physical silver. You could not get it anywhere. I was calling, trying to make sure I put a $60,000 hold on British Britannias. I just bought $60K worth on a call just because I know I would have enough inventory. So we're buying them, and it drove the price up to like a physical price. It drove up to like $33 an ounce or more. The next day, the price of silver went down.
Yeah.
Because they sold off 1.5 times the annual supply in contracts that aren't silver. So that's what I'm telling when people are looking at the spot price or looking at contract price, that's not real. What's real is the in your hand physical metals, and they definitely do not want the price to go up. And several reasons, accumulation by the central banks, they don't want to compete with that. But also the dollar fiat currency competes with gold. Bottom line, it competes with gold. They don't want gold anywhere near what its actual valuation would be. It would send shockwaves through the market. According to Hambro's Bombshell, it's the Bank of International Settlements in Switzerland, i.e. the central banks of central banks. Since 2018, the Financial Stability Desk at the world's central banks have followed the Bank of International Settlements, BIS, instruction to hide the perception of inflation by rigging the gold market. Let's read that again. The Financial Stability Desk at the world's central banks have followed the Bank of International Settlements, BIS, instruction to hide the perception of inflation by rigging the gold market. Well, see, that's what I just said. It competes directly with fiat currency, competes directly with gold. They know that. Gold is money.
Yeah.
And and if gold started valuing itself like it should be in physical form, it would create a massive shift in the markets, and they don't want that. The only way to achieve this cover is by smashing the price of physical gold by the alchemical production of paper gold. Now, this article this is like the article I wish I had written, but you have to be an insider to know that. I mean, you can get keys to what's going on, and I've certainly read more about the manipulation, because almost every major thinker in this realm that I know and I follow has all predicted like we should be at $3,000, $4,000 gold right now, just based off the loss of purchasing power by the dollar
this year.
Yep.
Sorry, I was showing my guy the chart. He's in here, and I just needed him to see that. Could you imagine the dangers that this would have, Tony, if some very big players out there, because you have to have so much to demand your physical gold delivery. What would happen if people demanded delivery in that market? Because that's easier to unwind and unravel than what's going on in silver. Because what we're looking at in those contracts is just an IOU. And how many people do you know out there, guys, where they owe you something, but you're never going to see it again? Do you trust the bank? No.
There's another addendum here in the Zero Hedge asks, what's wrong with gold? And then the follow-up, the correct answer, which the article fails to even mention, is the gold price discovery is based on the limitless creation of trading of synthetic paper derivatives. And this is what we've been saying. Gold price discovery is generated and controlled by the bullion banks trading unlimited quantities and of unallocated gold credit. This is a rigged system. Now, my thoughts, and we're going to continue to examine the article, but my thoughts just through reading this is that on one hand, it's a blessing because gold's still affordable. You can go and get, even if you can't get an ounce of gold, you can get, 10th ounce Britannias or Canadian maple leafs. You can still get.
You know me, I just tend to get grams at a time. I know that I'm paying a premium for that, but that's what I can get my hands on. So
that's what we can afford. Yeah, I'm with you. I just replenished a little bit of my gold stock, and I got a $5 pre-1933. It's like a 1908 gold Liberty. I love those pre-33 coins. You pay a little bit of a premium, but they're great to have, and it's got some history. But yeah, but we can afford that because gold is not valued as to what it actually is. Like if you were to do an accounting and say, this is how much supply is in the world, true supply, and this is how much demand is out there, I don't know what the price would be, but it wouldn't be what it is now, right?
Yeah.
I'm not telling you a number, but it's not going to be anywhere near the number it is right now. This is the number based off of pure, unadulterated manipulation, ladies and gentlemen.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm again so much in this piece. I'm so glad I found this. Yes, the guy at the Bank of International Settlements, Augustin Carsons, general manager of the Bank of International Settlements, BIS. He looks like the guy on the cover of that Warrant album from the 1980s, Dirty, Rotten, Filthy, Stinking Rich. I'll have to pull that up. And with the one that's got the cigar. And
he looks like he eats a whole calf at a time. I'm not saying a really nice steak. I literally mean they bring the calf to his doorstep and it's gone in 30 seconds.
Got to de-hoof it.
That's all he needs. Just de-hoof it. It's good to go.
I'm
sorry. I just wasn't expecting that either. This is just insane. Okay, this is absolutely insane. I don't think that anybody should have money tied up in paper gold or paper silver, and a lot of people are going to get really messed up whenever they need that, because I can promise you right now, if I was in that situation and I had a good percentage of my money tied up, there's a lot of people out there that have over 300,000, 500,000, $1 million tied up in these paper contracts. And if there is no way to get that delivered, you've got a real problem, because if you're getting it delivered, it means that you don't feel confident in the US dollar anymore. If you're not confident in the US dollar, how happy are you going to be that they will give you the equivalent in US dollars? And by the time that you get that money, how much worse is inflation? We saw that happening in Venezuela. So it's not impossible for it to happen here.
In this article, Hambro goes on to explain the 1980s evolution of the London paper gold market and its many derivatives, in which are the smoke and mirror mechanisms through which the London gold market pursues its fractional reserve paper gold scheme to this very day. And this little snippet here, it quotes, "If you thought the price would go down, you could sell us gold you didn't have and margin the trade in the same way. Then along came a raft of options and other products and the derivative market. And for that is what is it's called a chimera." And he says a chimera being a mythical, monstrous hybrid creature composed of different parts. The exponential growth in unallocated gold and gold derivatives first occurred during the period in the 1980s when Peter Hambro was the director of Mocatta and Goldsmith. And he says, this is other firms, other 5 bullion firms, namely N.M. Rothschild, Mocatta and Goldsmith, Samuel Montague, Sharps and Pixley, and other famous Johnson Matthey bankers. And it was Johnson Matthey bankers which nearly collapsed in 1984 and had to be rescued by the Bank of England so as to prevent the implosion of the rest of the London Bullion Club. Which I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. As Hambro describes, the Bank of England was then, as now, ready to prop up the London paper gold Ponzi with some physical gold when needed. And so this is where it's interesting. He goes on to say that whenever there's a margin call, the fiat system, the central banks will step in to cover the margin because they're working with the bullion banks. They're not going to allow the paper markets to collapse.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, this is so just messed up. Sorry. Whenever they were going over the names there, I knew a little bit of that history, but the only reason I knew a little bit of that history is because there's a bar that I would love to have one day, and it's actually the different sizes of Rothschild's bar, but it's the NM Rothschild's bar. Some of them are pretty interesting. It's just a unique part of history if you're really a gold bug. So, but they're not made anymore because of that whole collapsing scenario. I think that happened, and a lot of Rothschild gold again had to be used to get them out of that situation.
And this is a tweet by Bullion Star, and it says the usual suspects, J.P. Morgan Chase and Citibank, hold 90% of all gold and other precious metals derivatives held by all U.S. banks. They even hashtag RICO, hashtag DOJ, hashtag cartel. That's absolutely right. You're stealing. This is a manipulation of the highest order. But the reason this house of cards, right, is allowed to continue to build is because there is, in my opinion, deep collusion with the world's central banks. And, here's a little known history. In 1933, when FDR signed the executive order making it illegal for you to hoard and own gold, right, and turn your gold in, the American people, a lot of them dutifully went and turned their gold in and got a piece of paper from the Federal Reserve. They turned in a $20 gold piece and they got $20, right? And that gold was stored and then shipped in large part to the Bank of International Settlements in Basel, Switzerland. That was to set up the Bank of International Settlements. You talk about an inside job from the Federal Reserve. The central bank of central banks is the Bank of International Settlements. And that's like, people don't really hear about it that much. You talk about, people will name drop the IMF and things that came out of the aftermath of World War II at Bretton Woods. But predating that is the Bank of International Settlements, and they have this is where everything kind of flows down, right? And my friend Charlie Robinson would call it the octopus of global control. Part of that octopus is the central banks. And one of the things I always say is fiat is fake. It's the head of the snake. Well, the true head of the serpent would be those surrounding the Bank of International Settlements. So absolutely eye-opening. And I'm glad we did the show today, because that article popped up around noon, and I was like, this is what I've been talking about, and it details it. So we'll have it in the show notes for everybody to go over. But nothing shocking to me, Kinsey, nothing I'm shocked by, but I do think it's a very important piece, and I don't think that their manipulation will last forever. Do you have any closing thoughts on this?
No, I don't. Just expect more of it. Most of these people just get a slap on the wrist at the end of the day, and the manipulation can only continue for so long. It's like pulling that rubber band back. Eventually it has to snap back into place.
I want to shout out to the chat over on Rockfin. And I would tell anybody watching us, Kinsey and I are somewhat careful on this show to keep it within finance, but knowing who we are and the other shows we're connected to, you never can tell on the technocratic control platform. So a fallback position would be, our podcast, and certainly rockfin.com on the America Unplugged channel. But we've got Joel Smith in the chat over on Rockfin, and I see Vince Agnelli. He says, hello again, Antonio. Well, it's good to see you, Vince, and appreciate watching. Riley in the chat. Wolfman Jack. Wolfman catches my shows. I appreciate you, Wolfman. Thank you so much for that. And then we had Tom Cooper, and I think Tom Cooper was saying, thank you, Tony and Kinsey, for more great information. Well, we really try. And this is part of the reasons that Kinsey and I do this show is so that we learn too, because going through the articles, breaking down things, and reverse engineering what the headlines mean, that helps us understand. So we appreciate all of you and your feedback. And we've also got the YouTube chat there. So we're trying to stay. If you have questions or anything, we got about 10 more minutes, you can throw them our way. I know Kenzie would be happy to answer anything that comes up. She's the one that you go to for questions.
I'll try my best.
Yeah.
And
I'm
we
having
did have one more article.
Yep. Okay. Yeah,
just for crypto.
Yeah. Let me go to. I've pulled up a couple of things too, and I'm always. Every week we do this show, and I'm always like, the two things I'm looking for is a really good article on Bitcoin and a really good article on silver. So far I can find some decent ones on Bitcoin, but I never find anything on silver. Like, it's just, silver is the metal that, like, sometimes I wonder if, does it exist? Are people going to write about it?
CERN disappeared it.
CERN disappeared silver? What? Do you want to talk about I'm out millions of dollars, the thousands of those investors? Okay, let me pull that.
I mean, I'll say this nicer than how we talked on the phone the other day. But first things first, guys, just don't keep large amounts of money on these exchanges. The headline here is, I'm out millions of dollars. Thousands of crypto investors have their life savings frozen as Voyager files for bankruptcy protection. So this has got a lot of people shaken up, obviously. A ton of people are trying to run through one little tiny door. You might even say it's like the little tiny door that was in Alice in the Wonderland, and you've got thousands of people trying to get through there. They're not even drinking the shrinking formula. So here we are. Now, a lot of people get drawn to this, Tony, again, because of being able to make 9 or 10% or whatever it might be. I'm hearing stories, and it looks like a lot of people cannot get their money out. I've told you, I'm just following along. I've still got a little bit of money left over on that exchange, about $200 worth of stuff. And I'm just keeping it there. If I'm out $200, it's not the worst thing in the world. Would I be pretty pissed off? Yes, but I'm going to give it some time. Maybe it's only for larger accounts that just can't pull everything out at once. And another interesting thing is, I opened up the app earlier, Tony. If they are going under, do you not think that it's irresponsible for them to be doing the whole you and your friend get $50 when you refer them to us?
Yeah.
That's kind of messed up, isn't it?
It is. And I mean, we go back, and even in the chat, they were saying, Riley said Coinbase said they would do this. They're telling you, which is why you should be. I mean, they're literally telling you. And, anytime I buy from an exchange, I get right off of it. Like if I'm buying like an altcoin, I could buy Bitcoin usually from my own network, from my machines. But altcoins and things, I'll get, right in, right out. And then I'll put it in my wallet, whatever wallet that is, usually Exodus. But no, this is something people need to be and pay attention to, and this is because it's and there's a lot of consolidation going on
there is.
Yeah.
Another messed up part is, some of these platforms were advertising that they were FDIC insured, and I'm just going to say, whether you're a real bank, whether you have that insurance or not, guys, you cannot trust that. That only works when there's like a small problem. If the whole platform is having an issue, or the whole bank is having an issue and everyone else is, that insurance doesn't mean anything. There are better ways to save money. Are there better ways to make X amount, whether it be that 9, 15% a month? Probably not. I'm not going to say that, but I don't trust any of these things. If it wants to act like a bank, and it smells like a bank, and it walks like a bank, I guess it's a bank, right? Don't trust them.
Well, I'm glad you brought this up. Just your weekly reminder, folks. Stay frosty.
Stay frosty.
Stay frosty. And we definitely encourage learning cryptocurrency and making smart decisions when it comes to that. And one of those decisions is never, ever, ever keep your savings on an exchange. Period.
Yeah.
All
Bad
right.
idea.
We'll do some spot prices here in a second. And I want to make sure I got any of the questions out of it. Riley asked a question in the chat. Says, I got a question. Will silver ever break to $100?
To $100?
Yeah, I mean, that seems like an easy slam dunk thing for it to have already done. I mean, so we'll say this. Silver, twice in its history, has broke the $50 mark.
Mm-hmm.
That was 1980 and 2011. The short answer is yes, I will eventually. I don't know. This isn't like, again, I'm not telling you if you go out and you buy some silver, tomorrow it's going to, I'm not doing any of that, but I will say that I'm betting on that. And the reason, I think, just simple mathematics of the dollar losing purchasing power. We've just been in a really strange time of economics where so much fake businesses, fake economics, fake projects, everything that stems from us going off the gold standard in 1971, we've built a fake reality with it.
Oh, yeah.
So it's hard to tell what's real in the sense of price valuation. But I ask any person, and I deal with gold and silver all the time. Not an expert, but this is how I make my living. I will tell you that when somebody puts a gold coin in my hand or a piece of gold jewelry, I can usually tell if it's real just by holding it. Now I always test things, but just so you know, I can even look at stuff usually and say that's real or not, right? But I ask anyone, take a 1 ounce American gold or a silver eagle or a 1 ounce Britannia or a 1 ounce silver round or a 1 ounce silver bar, put it in your hand, move it around, think about it, feel the weight on that, and tell me that's not at least $100.
Just don't walk into Tony's shop and purposely drop it on the floor 3 times. Yeah.
There was somebody wanting to try to test out whether my stuff was real. They kept dropping my gold buffaloes. I'm like, I have everything I sell. Why would I have a shop that's real and sell you fake stuff? I mean, how would I get away with that? Like, it's so bizarre. But I had somebody, I dropped it 3 different times. But I would tell people, just if you, precious metals have a resonance and an energy all themselves. I mean, it is interesting. I just tell them, when you put a silver maple leaf in your hand, and then just look at that, look how pretty it is, and look how, feel the weight. You can, again, to me, that seems like it's $100. It's not, doesn't. And that's why I think it might be a blessing in disguise for us to accumulate, because the same people that are holding the price down are also buying the metals.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just saying that the same people that want a low gold price are also buying it. And these are governments and central banks together. And we were talking about, Russia. We know where their nukes are. They list that. Those are all disclosed. But where their gold is, that's a secret. And same thing with every country. The gold is very that's what they put value on. But your government, like a lot of people think your government's going to give you health advice, and they're going to help you because they care, or they're going to give you financial advice because they help you. No, they don't want you to be wealthy. They don't want you to be independent. They don't want you to be sovereign. So just know that, all right? They're not going to be giving you the best advice or helping you out with that. Okay, so let's do. Do you have anything on Bitcoin? I've been looking around. I haven't seen any articles. Anything?
No, I think, what's it called? A lot of the people that had loans that were connected to Bitcoin, like what caused Voyager and everything to go down because of more loans. It looks like Celsius and some of these, maybe Luna or something, I think maybe it's Luna, has pulled together enough funds to pay down their loans for that. So that's a good thing, I would think. Maybe not. Maybe it's a terrible thing. But good to hear, I guess. I don't know, Tony. I think we're in that crypto winter that you were talking about. Maybe we'll snap right out of it, but
no, I don't think
know.
So. I think that what we're experiencing now is going to be a long, drawn out.
Yeah. Deal. You'll see a crypto recession side by side with our recession.
But I'm wearing my Bitcoin shirt. Do you see I got my Bitcoin shirt on?
I don't see the moon in it, though, so...
I still like Bitcoin. I still think Bitcoin's cool. I love the technology. So I will say, I looked around to find some articles that I thought, will shed some light. And the same people that, or the mainline articles are kind of, you either get the Bitcoin maximalists that are just so for Bitcoin, they can't understand why it's not, 300,000 or whatever. And then you have the other market people that it's a scam. I mean, you're finding a good, balanced article is hard to do. On where I think I try to do that because I think the technology is great. I like Bitcoin decentralized, and to me, it's an important part of the future. And Bitcoin's story is still going. I still think it has a story to be told, but we're entering into a period of recession and possible, I say possible. Let's remove that. Scratch that from the record. Depression. Okay, it's around the corner somewhere, because history does that. It throws you, and we've propped up these artificial markets for so long that there has to be a reckoning. And a lot of it's planned on purpose, controlled demolitions in some ways, so they can pick winners and losers. So no good articles on Bitcoin, but I will tell the audience I still think Bitcoin has a story to tell. So let's talk about. By the way, if you want to check spot prices, you can go to wisewolf.gold. It's easy. Oh, well, I guess never mind. My spot prices, my tickers went down. Let's go to. This. It's funny. Two different places. The ticker had gone, and not just mine. Okay.
Maybe that has some kind of connection to some centralized thing. Oh man, think about how dangerous that is. How centralized the cost of these goods are. That's crazy too.
Interesting. So go ahead.
All you have to do is like shut down the ticker programs, and like nobody knows what the cost is anymore.
It was on. We were good earlier, right before I started the show, so that's new. Today, gold price, the yellow metal, 1,742 Luciferian Bankster notes per troy ounce, 1,742 Federal Reserve fiat dollars per troy ounce. It's down $22.56. Just insane. Silver is at $19.32. It's up 14 cents, Kenzie. So you may want to call your broker. It's time to get that Lambo. I know that you've been waiting for silver to make the turn. Just absolutely insane, ladies and gents, for prices. And then see what Bitcoin's doing. Bitcoin, $21,630 LBNs make a Bitcoin. Still hovering in that 20,000. It's finding support there at that level. So interesting to see what happens with BTC, gold and silver. And you can find us at goldencrypto.news, all the previous podcasts, anywhere podcasts are found. If you leave us a review, I'll read it on air. No new reviews this week, but I hope we've been complimented saying we had good banter, Kenzie. So I hope we're keeping the banter going.
Oh, most certainly.
All right. You can find Kenzie at Wise Wolf Gold or Fringe_News, both on Twitter. You can find us at anywhere on social media as at Wise Wolf Gold. That's Instagram at Wise Wolf Gold, Facebook at Wise Wolf Gold. What am I missing? Anything?
No, unless you're on like Gab or something.
I haven't got on Gab yet. I need to.
Okay.
I like Gab. You can find me at Tony Arterburn on Gab, arterburn.news for my radio show, other podcasts. And do you have anything, Kenzie? We'll close out.
No, I'm just gonna go put my clown makeup on and get done with the rest of the day.
And when in clown, do as the clowns do. Okay. So, all right. We'll see you next week, folks. Always great talking to you. 3 p.m. Central Time, live shows every Saturday here on rockfin.com on the America Unplugged channel and all the other technocratic control platforms, right? And in a world of fiat reality, the truth is solid gold, ladies and gents. See you next time.